The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find. The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style.
Jason, Colline,
Good morning.
good morning. It's great to have you on the Big H Podcast once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.
As I saying off camera, you look great.
Thanks.
And you said a lot of people are telling you that. And,
Yeah. I don't know what I'm supposed to look like, but
well, I think when we hear a refreshment of your story and then
yeah,
what you've been through since then, I
yeah.
think then our viewers will see what you're talking about. For our new viewers, go through a little bit about what's happened in the past, and then we'll talk about what's happened
Yeah, well,
since then.
thanks again for having me on here. And for those that don't know my story, I sat down with Mike a year ago. So we're doing a little bit of 1 year recap of what's happening. And that episode, of course, is on the YouTube channel, and you can go back and watch it. It's a couple hours long, so we won't really get into everything in full of what we did a year ago. But as a quick recap, I'm a local gentleman here, Hilton graduate, 1993. Live in the village. I've been living in the village here in the same house for, it'll be 23 years in October, and have a daughter that's in the middle school. I have an older son who graduated from Hilton in 2010. I was a teenage parent, and that brought some challenges when I was a young kid. I worked through those challenges. And most recently, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer when I was 46 years old. That was in 2022. And since my diagnosis in 2022, I've had 42 rounds of chemotherapy and 9 surgeries. So I'm still sitting here. They told me back in 22 that the average person in your situation is 24 to 28 months. And I really don't count what it is, but it's been over 4 years. So here we are. And yeah, that's really it. So it's all about, to me, over the years. And again, we got into it deep last time. Seems to me like every 10 years, something terrible is or a challenge. I don't know if it's really terrible, because at the end of the day, pressure and problems, I think, shape you. They always say pressure shapes diamonds, right? So I think at the end of the day, even though when you go through these challenges, it makes you think differently, makes you change your mindset, makes you look at things a little bit differently. And, in my mid 20s, I was 25. I had a girlfriend, guy ran a red light, T-boned her. She ended up being in a coma, and then what they call an emerging coma. We never spoke again. She had awakened sleeping cycles, but never talked to me. She was on a feeding tube, was in a hospital bed. Mother and father took care of her. And then her mother passed away, actually, about 11 years after her accident. And then her father took care of her for 9 years all by himself. So God bless that man. Now the whole family's passed away, and down the road here at Parma Cemetery. And so that was a challenge, in your mid 20s. That's tough to go through. And then, of course, I lost my brother when I was 38. He was 44. He passed away of the flu. That was sudden, where all of a sudden, my brother's here, and 2 weeks later, he's gone. He's my only sibling. And then being diagnosed with cancer when I'm 46. So it seems like, I'm 16, find out I'm going to be a dad, that work through that challenge. And then all of a sudden I'm in my mid 20s, girlfriend gets hit by, a guy who runs a red light. I learned how to clean tracheotomies. I mean, it was brutal. She was in the hospital system for like a year. Um, and then, of course, in my mid 30s, my brother, mid 40s, cancer, so we'll see what's going to come about in my mid 50s here, you know, but whatever it is, we just know that those are speed bumps in the road, right? And I think I mentioned last time that the analogy of getting on a plane, and that we're getting on this airplane and we know we're going to hit some turbulence, right? So when we hit the turbulence, let's just stay calm, right? Because if we just get upset about it or start freaking out, we're just going to freak out everyone around us. So let's just stay calm about it and work through these challenges, knowing that it's going to smooth out on the other side, right? And that's it.
Through your chemo and your 9 surgeries, how did you stay positive?
Well, like I said, I mean, I understand that I can only control what I can control, and I understand that there's a process to it, and that everyone has my best interest, right? I mean, it's even like I will tell you. Most recently, I lost my father. On November 23rd, my father passed away. That was sudden too. I mean, a year ago, if we were sitting here and you were like, "Hey, you think your father's going to pass away by the end of the year?" I would have said, "No way." I mean, the guy was perfectly fine, a little overweight, diabetic. That's what happens when you're almost 80. you know, but he's driving around his Mercedes to Wegmans and Walmart and getting around and doing his thing, and I would have never have thought it. And there was a health issue that led to him being in the hospital, and then he was in the hospital and he was in there too long, really. And that's what led to him ending up passing away. But that too is a process, right? I mean, as soon as it happened, it was like, okay, now what do we do? Right. I have my mother. I don't have any siblings anymore. My brother passed away. What am I going to do? She's living on her own. I'm not changing that situation. She's going to stay on her own. What are we going to do? And I just started going through it one thing at a time. I said, what's the most important thing I need to do? The most important thing I need to do is just number one, make sure she's not alone because they were together for 53 years, right? So you start thinking about all the other stuff, maybe the cable bill or the garbage man or what, that's just stuff, right? I needed to make sure that she didn't feel alone. And I'm still doing that. I mean, she's going to come over today. I'm having my son and my nephews and my mom over tomorrow. Usually she's over on Fridays for our Tops fish fry. You know what I mean? And she lives in the Hilton School District, what's North Greece. So I just grab her. Some days I just go over there and just sit down with her and have coffee. Any of the paperwork that I've done, like to getting the affairs in order, has been done at her house. I'll bring my laptop over there and just do it right at her house. Just so I can spend time with her. Sometimes it's just sitting on the couch and she's watching the Hallmark movie and I'm just sitting next to her drinking coffee. I mean, that's what you got to do. Right. So, like I said, I mean, you assess the situation in any situation that comes up. I just kind of look at it and go, all right, there's going to be a challenge here. There's something that I need to do. How am I going to go about it? And then let's prioritize it and say, what's the most important thing to address here? And then start attacking the priority first.
I'm sorry to hear about your dad.
Oh, thanks. I
First
appreciate
of all,
that.
it's not an easy thing. Another
Yeah.
challenge to throw on your plate. I did it once. I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about loneliness
Mhm.
and it affects the young,
Mhm.
your teenagers and then the old.
Mhm.
So I think the fact that you're cognizant of that with your mom
Oh, for sure.
and that just sitting with her
Yeah.
while she watches her Hallmark movie
Yeah.
is comforting.
Yeah. Of course it is. Of course it is. No one wants to be alone, you know? And she has to get used to I always call it the new normal, right? I mean, it was like that when I was diagnosed with cancer and it's still like that now. Like, I'll just say it on there. It doesn't matter. I'm missing my gallbladder. You offered me Danish. I can't eat Danish. I'm missing my gallbladder. I'll be on air.
Right.
You have to be aware of what you're eating, where you're eating, when you're eating, what do you have to do right after you eat. I mean, because I mean, I'll be in the bathroom and we'll have to pause the podcast here. But even like me being immune compromised, right? I have to be aware of who, not, it's not like I'm the bubble man, you know, you
Mhm.
don't have to be that guy. But if you're around people that are coughing or sneezing, you know, you have to be careful. You have to wash your hands, use hand sanitizer. They have me eat like a pregnant woman with deli meat. I can't eat deli meat. If I eat deli meat, I have to microwave it. So I don't eat deli meat unless it's ham. I'll warm it up and throw it in a grilled ham and cheese sandwich. They do not want me eating salads in restaurants. So I don't. I eat it at home where my wife can clean it. She cleans it really well. She does a really good job with that. And same thing with different fruits. The other day I was sitting having lunch with someone and they had a bunch of fruit and they had blueberries in it, and they really don't want me to eat blueberries because the bacteria can be in the crevices of the berry, right? So they want me to eat more smooth fruits and things like that. So yeah, I mean, that's just the way it is. You know what I mean? And you have to get used to that new normal, and you have to listen to them. I think that's a lot of the problem too, is that people will go to their doctors and their doctors will say, well, you have to do this, 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 and this. And they just kind of go, yeah, you know. And I think, you know, and as we spoke last time, and as we're talking this time, you know, I always use this sports analogy. And I really think that like playing sports, individual sports and team sports, because I was football and wrestling, right? So when you're in football, you have to learn how to be with the team, take instruction, coaching, all those kind of things. You take coaching in wrestling too, but when you're out there in a wrestling mat and you get your butt kicked, there's no one else to
Mhm.
like. You can't go, well, you didn't block your guy in this play. You're just out there by yourself.
Right.
So if you get your butt kicked, you get your butt kicked. It's on you, right? But when team sports specifically, and I like I said, I always use the analogy of like not listening to your doctors would be like not listening to your football coach, you know. And if you didn't listen to your football coach and you did something and some guy knocked the snot out of you, and you get up and you know your coach is going to look at you and go, see, you see what happened. You didn't go where I told you to go. You didn't do what I told you to do. You didn't listen to me. You're not being coachable here, and you just got the snot knocked out of you, you know. So listen to your doctors,
Mhm.
right? Because they're the professional, just like your coaches have forgot more about the game of football than you probably will ever know, right? They've been doing it for decades. They know what they're doing. They're not just saying things to blow hot air at you, right? So their doctors are in the same situation. They're the ones with the education. They're the ones who went to school. They're the ones with the experience, and they're not just saying things to blow hot air at you. So listen to them. You know, now, do you have to be an advocate for yourself and think a little bit and not just be a soldier? Yeah, sure you do. Right. I mean, look at I'm now my situation. I'm at the University of Rochester. I've been at the University of Rochester and they're amazing at what they do. Right. And what I'm going to say just validates that. Right. I'm going through a situation now. We'll dive into it. But I got Sloan Memorial down in New York City, which is supposed to be number 2 in the United States behind MD Anderson in Texas, right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call Sloan just to get somebody else to take a look at it, you know? And again, let's use the football analogy. You know what I did? I took all my chart, which is my film, and I gave it to another group of coaches. And I said, hey, why don't you look at it? And maybe you'll see something that this group of coaches is not seeing, right? And have a different play or something different
Mhm.
here, right? Let's not just say, well, geez, this is the way it is, right? Again, you have to be an advocate for yourself, right? So I gave them access to my chart. They went through the whole thing. They basically, in short, looked at, I had a Zoom meeting with them, right? Um, and,
Can I
and
ask you, when was this?
this was a month ago.
Okay.
Yeah, on February 18th. Um, or I'm sorry, on February 18th, I met with my oncologist at the U of R. On February 19th, I had a Zoom meeting with the people at Sloan. So less than a month ago. And she basically said to me, well, you know, you're a stage 4 colon cancer patient. You're here 4 years after your diagnosis. I think the University of Rochester do a heck of a job with you. You just keep doing whatever they tell you to do.
Mm-hmm.
In short, that's basically what she said. They're doing a great job. If you need us to get involved in anything in the future, we're here for open ears. But hey, you know what? There's nothing we would have done any different. There's nothing we could have done any different. They've done a heck of a job. Whatever they're doing over there, keep doing it. You know, one thing that I did learn though, because, one of the reasons why I went there was that maybe they had some clinical trials or they were doing something. It's pretty wild. They're making one-off vaccines now. It's a study. They're studying one-off vaccines for cancer patients. One thing that a lot of folks don't know, and I really didn't know either, and you'll hear people say, well, geez, they haven't come up with a cure for cancer. It's not that easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that every single cancer cell has its own DNA to it, right? And that's complicated. Where, yeah, sure, I have colon cancer, let alone all the different types of cancers, right? Between colon, pancreas, I mean, you name it, right? There's tons of different cancers, and then for it to have its own DNA is just crazy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what they're doing is they have categories for it, where normally they'll take a look at it and they break it down into like 30, 40 strands of the DNA, and then they'll make a category. Like mine's called KRAS, and then they have BRAF, and they have all these different ones. So now what they're doing with me is it's funny. I actually sent a message through my chart because I was waiting for them to send this morning before I came here, because I was waiting for them to send me some paperwork. They're going to send, I'm going to get blood work, and they're going to send it to a lab, and then they're going to break my DNA out into like 800 strands.
And this is
And
Sloan in New York City?
no, this is Sloan. I'm done with them. Like I said, they just told me the U of R is doing great. This is all through the U of R.
You.
Yeah, but what they do is they won't do this test there at the U of R. I'm just working with my oncologist to get the paperwork right. I will have my blood work done somewhere. It could be at the U of R. Sometimes they send like a kit to my house, and then I have to take the kit and go to any U of R blood lab, and then they'll take my blood and they'll put it in this FedEx envelope and they'll send it to a specialized lab. I have that done every quarter anyways, where they check my blood levels for DNA markers of reoccurring cancer. And that's just the same thing. They call me on the phone, this lab, and then they send a FedEx kit to my house. I go to a U of R lab, have the blood drawn, they throw it in a FedEx envelope, send it to this lab, they test it. Then they'll have the results online, and then I actually have to log into my portal, download the results, and email them to my U of R doctors. So
I apologize. I interrupted you.
Yeah,
You're
no.
talking about the 800.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're gonna go through and they're gonna look at it, and then when they have it, it could help the oncologists and the doctors see if there are other targeted therapies that would work on me besides like maybe radiation, maybe some immune therapy or something along those lines. I'm not there because it's a clinical trial, but eventually what's going to happen is, which is they're working on it now. It's kind of like the COVID vaccine, where they made a targeted vaccine to go against something specific, except this is even more specific. This would hit the actual DNA of your cancer. Now, this is wild. So there was a baby that was born and it was missing like a part, a strand of its chromosome. And using this same technology, they took that strand, they fixed it, and they gave the baby a vaccine, a small dose, and then 3 months later, another dose. They fixed them. And this was one of those things where, like, it was like, you know what? So talk about that. It's almost along the lines of, did you hear that they created a dire wolf? Did you hear that in a lab? A dire wolf?
What is
So a dire wolf is an old wolf that is extinct. And they made 3 of them. They actually extracted the DNA. I believe it was from 2 different bones. One bone was 13,000 years old, and another bone was 75,000 years old.
Jurassic Park stuff.
Yeah. No, they created it. They created a dire wolf in a lab, and it's a real wolf. I mean, it's not like it was lab created. It was created using the DNA from that actual wolf. And when they recreated it using the DNA from these two different bones, they created an actual wolf, and they have it right now, and there's three of them, and they're basically studying their behavior, and they're really studying them. And I even heard that like they're not going to bring Jurassic Park stuff. Talk about that. They wanted to bring back like a certain type of dinosaur, but they weren't going to bring back anything, of course, that can fly. And what they do is they have them in like the wolves, and I've read about it a little bit. I'm not a professional about it, so but of course anybody can Google it. So they put it in like a fenced in area that's in a fenced in area that's in a fenced in area. And then they have cameras, and they basically said that the wolf couldn't excuse me, they said the wolf couldn't go to the bathroom without them knowing about it. They have cameras on them, their movements all the time. They know where they are, what they're doing. And then if they got outside the fence, they're in another fenced in area. But they're roaming around. I mean, you're talking thousands of acres. They have it fenced in. They, are watching its behavior. They're watching how it interacts with the other wolves. They're basically studying and learning about it. So it's kind of the same thing. I mean, they're looking at the strand of DNA of the cancer cell, and then they're reverse engineering it, and they're making a vaccine that'll attack just that cancer cell. Chemotherapy kills all cells,
Mhm.
good or bad, and that's why you see folks lose their hair and things like that, right? Because it's killing those cells. So imagine that. I mean, it's only going to kill the cells that are bad, that are in the cancer. So you'll get a vaccine, and it'll start attacking those cancer cells. And again, we're far off from that, right? But those are one-off, special made vaccines that are going to target just the DNA of your cancer cell. And they're doing that. I mean, Sloan Memorial is one of the hospitals that's doing clinical trials on that. Unfortunately, with me having a liver transplant, I'm out of the loop for clinical trials because I'll skew their study, right? I have something wrong with me. So if I had the clinical trial and something happened because because I had a transplant, I could not do well and then end up being a black check mark on their study. So they won't let me be part of any clinical trials anymore. But who knows, maybe the things that they're doing for me are around long enough to where those things aren't clinical trials anymore. They're FDA approved or something. And then, I can go and get a vaccine, and this cancer that's in me can just be done.
For those fish watching, go into your liver transplant. Who was your donor? And
Yeah. Yeah. So again, I was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer in January of 2022. Went through 12 rounds of chemotherapy. Then in September of 2022, I had a colon resection where they took out 25% of my colon, my appendix, and some lymph nodes. And then I was put back on chemotherapy, and then for 30 more rounds. And then in December of 2023, I had a live donor liver transplant in which my son was my donor. At that time, it was in 2023. My son was 31 years old. Now he's 33. He'll be 34 later this year. But yeah, he was my donor. You have to find your own donor when you have going through a procedure like that, because my liver functioned fine, right? So I didn't have liver failure. And when you hear people that need a liver transplant from a, a deceased person, right? That person that's receiving that is usually in the hospital, like
ready to go out.
yeah, they're gonna pass away if they don't get one like now, right? Or in the coming days. So that's not the situation with people who have cancer, because they can do ablations and resections and all those kind of things. The liver transplantation for cancer patients is new. Strong Memorial Hospital, at least as of December of 24, when I spoke to the chief of transplantation, and there's actually a news article. Spectrum did a news article on our story, which is online if you Googled me. But there's U of R was one of 27 centers in the United States that does it. So out of all the hospitals in the United States, the U of R is one of 27, which we're a blessing to have them right here. And there's folks, I know folks from Tampa, Florida. There's people from Oregon, all over the United States that have come here to the University of Rochester to have their transplant in this situation, because the U of R has also done more than any other institution in the United States. They were one of the first ones to adopt this and start doing it. And when I had at the time of my transplant, the and again in December of 24, I can tell you this story in a second. The chief of transplantation said that I was around the 60th or 70th in the United States, period.
Wow.
Now he doesn't know exactly how, like where the other hospitals are at, but he knows roughly compared to the U of R. Like if the U of R is doing, 15 a year, or right, or 10 a year, the other hospitals may be doing one or two a year. So he had an idea, right? And again, I was the 19th one done at Strong, and the 60th or 70th in the United States. And even when I had mine in December of 23, in December of 24, the U of R only did 7 more. That was it. They did 7 in a year. So listen, I was lucky to even be in that situation, right? That I met all the criteria and the protocol to have that done. Um, so yeah, I had my transplant in December of 2023. Um, I originally did not want my son to do it, right? I mean, I don't think anyone wants to put their children through something
Correct.
like that. It doesn't matter if they're, I always say if they're 3 or 33, you still want to stop them from being in harm's way. You're putting your arms up when they run it towards the end of the driveway. Hey, watch what you're doing. Drive slow. Be careful driving home.
Right.
All that stuff,
Watch
right?
the weather.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's just not natural, to want your kid to go through something like that. So I didn't want them to do it. I put it on Facebook that I was looking for a donor. My post was shared 2,300 times, which is just like insane. It humbles you, man. It humbles you. It really does humble you. And I had all kinds of people from former colleagues, current friends, neighbors, people I haven't talked to in 15 years, maybe someone I went to high school with, one of my best friend's younger brother, my cousin's kid. I mean, you name it. They all went in to try to be a donor for me. And the way that worked, and we spoke about this before when I was on with you. It was like I always say, it was like taking a tag at the deli. When we go to Toss to get our fish fry on Friday.
Yep.
Right. Right. They had to call the U of R, give them their information, and then my insurance company pays for everything, of course, right? So my insurance company would cover the treatment and the testing for one person at a time. So they call them, they go in to have their blood work. If their blood work looks good, they go on to the next step where they have, some kind of maybe like a CT scan, pulmonary test. They start going through those tests. If those tests look good, they take a 3D image of their liver and they send it to Germany, and they look to see exactly where they can cut the piece off that I need, right? Enough, because it's all by weight, based on weight for me to have. And in one instance, they got that far, which that's kind of like the last step. And they said, well, it's too vascular. Like you can't take what Jason needs because your liver is too vascular. So then we're like, sorry, you can't help them. Next person in line, next number, then they call that person on the phone. They really talk to you first. Do you know what you're doing? Do you know the risk? Do you know, right? This is exactly what's going to happen. And then that person's like, yep. And they go, okay, go get blood work. Then they get blood work and there's a high level. Maybe they got high cholesterol or something. UR goes, no, sorry, you can't help them. Get your cholesterol under control and you can call us back if you really want to help. Next person in line. And they just keep doing that. Well, what happened is they kept having issues. And 8 or 9 months went by and my son came to me and said, Dad, like all these people that are going in for you, a lot of them are older, and you're, because I'm 50, right? and I'll be 51 in a few more weeks. But he's like, they're all your friends, your classmates, your people, right? And of course, they're going to find something wrong with them.
Hmm.
You know, I'm 20 years younger. Like, let me try to do this because the deal was, and you want to talk about miracles, we'll get into this because I didn't. This is the new part that I didn't get into the last time. If they found cancer anywhere else in my body, the transplant was off because they need just like anything else, and just like we were talking about with the clinical trials and the black check mark, right? If they do these transplants and they do these different, I would just say things, and they're not successful, the insurance companies won't pay for them,
Hmm.
right? They're going to say, well, we're
Which is
not.
kind of sad, isn't that?
Well, I mean, is it, I mean, is it though? Is it really, we pay into the insurance company, and the insurance company pays the
Okay.
doctors, right? Is it our responsibility to pay for their testing, really? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you can think of it however you want to think of it, but the insurance company kind of looks at it and says, well, this isn't a proven method. This isn't, like, you have no history or no data on this. This is experimental. Like, we're not going to pay for your experiment. And really, they called it that. Like, when the U of R first submitted my paperwork to my insurance company, they denied it and said it was experimental.
Gotcha.
And it took like 3 or 4 tries of the U of R sending the insurance company, like, no, this isn't experimental. Like, they've been doing this over in Norway for years. This is just, maybe you think it's new because he's going to be number 19, because there's no history here in the United States, right? Which is the reason why I was on Spectrum News, because I said to the U of R when we were talking that, I told them, you guys got to get the word out and do a little bit more PR around this thing, because if those insurance underwriters Google and start doing some homework and searching on this treatment, maybe if they Google it now, they'll see my story and they'll see that I'm around and I'm alive, and look at, I'm still working. I'm still paying the insurance company, right?
Hmm.
So, um, that's the way it is, right? That maybe it'll help and they'll go, you know what, this isn't experimental. This is working. Look at this guy, right? And that is still to be determined. But really, I mean, out of all the ones that they've done, I think they hit at the U of R so far. They had, and their criteria has been more strict, but they had one person in the very beginning that passed away, and now their criteria is a little bit more strict, which again, they needed to make sure that I didn't have cancer anywhere else, or else the transplant was off. That was the deal, right? So even a month before my transplant in December of 23, they put me through a slew of tests. I mean, you name it, I had it done, from PET scans, MRIs, CT scans, pulmonary. I mean, you name it. I went through the whole thing, and they didn't find any cancer. And they were like, okay, let's, you're coming back in a month and we're going to do this transplant. Then the day of the operation, they knocked me out. They cut me open and they looked for cancer.
So they're still looking for it.
They're
Yeah.
looking for it, right? And
Right.
they did not sedate my son until they saw that I didn't have cancer anywhere. Then they sedated my son. So they like knocked me out around 6 in the morning. My son didn't get sedated until around 9, because they spent 3 hours looking for cancer in me before they even did anything.
Hmm.
Uh, so luckily, again, the moons aligned and they didn't see anything. But in March of 2024, and this is where last year when I was here, we didn't talk on this or talk about this. We didn't speak on this, but in March of 2024, I ended up getting COVID, and I went in and they didn't know what was wrong with me because the COVID actually affected me. It gave me uh, I had a temperature before the COVID test would find COVID. So they like tested me and said you were negative for COVID, but I had a fever. So it was like affecting my body before it would even show up. The amount would show up on the COVID test.
Hmm.
So I went into the hospital with this fever. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I had my transplant a few months before that, so they didn't know if it was something else. They threw me through. I mean, I was in there for 9 days. They went through a whole slew of tests. They couldn't figure it out. They didn't know what was going on, to the point where they were like, well, sometimes people get viruses every day, and they're not viruses that we really have tests for, because most people get the viruses and just, like, their body fights it off and they don't even know they have it. And since you're immune compromised, your body knows you have it, and your body's reacting to it with the fever. And you could very easily have a virus that we don't have a test for, that most people just fight it off, and it's going to take your body's reacting to it. It's going to take you a little bit to fight it off, right? But then they tested me again for COVID, I think like 6 days after me being in there. And now the COVID was strong enough inside my body where it showed up as a positive test. And they're like, oh, okay, you got COVID. Well, during that whole process, of course, they're CT scanning me again, right? And they found a tumor in my inguinal hernia sac. I had a hernia, a really bad hernia, down in my inguinal hernia sac, and an umbilical one. And they found a small tumor down there. It was, I think, when they first noted it, it was like 3 millimeters, um, which for folks out there, that's like even smaller than like a pencil eraser, right? It's tiny. And 3 millimeters is about an eighth of an inch. All right. So they found it in there, and then they didn't know if it was cancer or not, right? They just see something down there, a nodule, and it got bigger. And then 3 months later, we looked at it. It was 6 millimeters. 3 months after that, it was 9 millimeters, right? And we just kept looking at it. Now, they wouldn't operate on me for anything until a year after my transplant. So they weren't going to do anything at least until 2025. So when I was here we did this the last time on the last episode, I was recovering from inguinal hernia surgery. Um, and I had that in February of 2025. They went in and they removed a 13 millimeter nodule from my inguinal hernia sac. Now, again, we'll go back to being an advocate for yourself. So I had a hernia, right? I mean, I had this hernia even in 2021, and it was something that I was working with my primary care doctor to have fixed, right? Well, once I was diagnosed with cancer, that becomes a backseat. That takes a backseat to everything else, right? So, we were planning on having this hernia surgery to repair it, and they said, "Well, we can't do anything. You gotta wait a year to have anything done." So I was like, okay. So we were having the hernia surgery anyways. So I go in to see my oncologist, and they're like, "Yeah, we see it. We're gonna go in and we're gonna biopsy it." I said, "Biopsy it? Why are you gonna biopsy it when I'm having hernia surgery? Like, just take it out."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Well, if we do the hernia surgery, we're gonna do it laparoscopic. So you're gonna have some small incisions in there, and if we have to take that tumor out, we're gonna have to cut you open." Now I have an 18-inch scar that goes from the center of my chest all the way like this around my side from my liver
Cut me
transplant.
up again, right?
I lifted up my
Cut me,
shirt.
Mick.
Oh yeah, I lifted up my shirt and I said, "You really think I'm worried about
Right.
you cutting me open?"
Right.
Right. And it ended up being like a 4-inch long incision down in my angle. I mean, who cares, right? I think I had when I was on a special machine during my transplant, because I was swelling up so bad, that was pumping the blood outside of my body. So I have like a scar over here inside my groin and one in my armpit. I think the scar in my armpit's like 3 inches big. So, whatever. So anyways, they took it out. They took the tumor out. And when they took the tumor out and they sent it to pathology, it matched the same cancer that my colon was. So
Hmm.
I mean, that's close proximity to my colon. So it must have spread there with, uh, of course it spread there. So now you had it, so the cancer spread from my colon to my liver to my inguinal hernia sac. And yeah, so they took that out and removed that. And then,
Can I just stop
yeah,
you?
yeah.
What did that feel like to you mentally, and when you got the news, like, okay, it spread?
Well, I mean, listen, there's a high chance of reoccurrence. They tell you that. I
Okay.
mean, like, it's almost like when I had my transplant and they said there's no evidence of disease, right? You're like, oh yeah, this is great, And I really thought that like kind of was what was going to happen. Like I was going to go through all of these things and then have my liver transplant, and then I expected it to come back, but I didn't expect it to come back so soon.
That's
That was the that was the part that it was like, you know what it was? It was more like, geez, can I get a break here?
because
Right?
listening to your story, I mean,
Yeah.
it's that every 10-year type of thing,
Yeah.
and you didn't even have 10 years where
No.
you could breathe.
Yeah, no, I didn't even have a year.
Mhm.
Like yeah, exactly. And it's not even the breathing. It was like really trying to get back to some kind of new normal, right? Because the chemo beats the heck out of you. And then I stopped chemo in November of 2023, right before my transplant. And then I go in and I have my transplant. And then you have your transplant. Like I said, I have this big 18-inch long incision that goes right through my stomach. They get your stomach muscles and all that, right? So they don't want you to lift anything heavy because they don't want you to end up getting a hernia in where that incision is, right? So you can't lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk for like 6 months.
Wow.
You're not doing anything.
Mhm.
You're basically walking. You're going for walks and you're walking. And so any home repairs or remodeling or anything you normally type stuff you want to do, you're not doing it, right? Excuse me. So I was like, okay, later on that year, you I start feeling a little bit better. Those restrictions start to go away. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, oh no, we have to operate again.
And this
It,
is in 25.
yeah, 25. And then it's the same thing. It's like, okay, late 2024, I was finally able to start lifting some things. You get through, and I mentioned it the last time, like I get through chemotherapy, and it was probably 3 or 4 months off of chemotherapy until I started feeling like normal again, like energy wise levels and things like that. So you start feeling good. You start healing up from the surgeries. You're like, okay, I went to New York City on vacation. I'm walking around Manhattan later that summer. I mean, we were starting to get back to normal again. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, let's do another surgery. And then and then now it's a hernia surgery. And again, like I said, I fixed my umbilical one and my inguinal one. So I had two, and they can't put the mesh in there or anything like that with me because of the transplant. And I really don't think they use that too much anymore. Anyways, I'm not quite sure, but they wouldn't put the mesh in there with me. So I have to let it heal naturally. So you have to be real careful. You're back to not lifting anything heavier than a gallon of milk. They always use that analogy because a
Mhm.
gallon of milk's 8 pounds and you can't lift 10. So that they want you to, you can't lift 10. So they always tell you, don't do that. Um, yeah, I mean, this summer, a few months, in 2025, later in the summer was like the first time I ever did like construction again. I put a new bay window in my house in October. In August, I put a new door going out back to my patio. So I like doing home improvement stuff, and I was finally getting back to it a little bit. But um, yeah, they did that surgery, and this is the part that's messed up. So I know that um I'll back up to 2024. So in March of 2024, they did that CT scan on me, and saw that in my when I had COVID, right? And they saw that tumor in my inguinal hernia sac, and I'm like, okay, right. And we're monitoring it, and in June it grows a little bit. Every 3 months I get a CT scan. I've been getting CT scans every 3 months since I was diagnosed on surveillance, right? And then in September of 2024, that scan they saw a nodule on my lung, right? And so now I have this nodule that's like, I think at that time, the one in my inguinal hernia sac was around 9 millimeters. Then they noted a small nodule on my lung. Now we always talk about, the mental aspect of it. When they came through my chart, I was sitting at my desk, and and again, we chatted on this last time. Uh, I was the vice president of Deep Pasquale Construction, which is one of the largest general contractors here in the city of Rochester. One of their most notable projects they're working on now is the new ATC Applied Technology Center building at MCC, which is roughly a $60 million project. So they're a big general contractor. They're not building decks. um, so I was the vice president there, and we built a new corporate headquarters. It's in the Canal Ponds Business Park behind BJ's off the Lexington exit. We're back there in the business park, brand new building. It actually won an award from the RBJ as one of the top commercial construction projects in the whole Rochester region. It was in there with the Children's Museum downtown, the Museum of Play. It was in there. It was like there was I think 10 projects that won the award, and the Strong Museum of Play edition and DCI's corporate headquarters were in the same thing. So that was really something else. And you reach this pinnacle in your professional career, and I'm sitting in this nice 200 square foot corner office that everyone dreams of on the second floor, overlooking the Canal Ponds Business Park and the ponds and the fountains in the ponds. And I got the flagpole outside my window, and beautiful office. It's the thing that everybody dreams about, right? And but it's 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, and my car is the only car in the parking lot. It's pitch black outside. And the result of my scan pops in your MyChart app. Now that MyChart app could be dangerous sometimes.
Exactly.
You try to figure out what's going on.
Right.
And then you see them note that there's a nodule in your lung, and you're already dealing with this inguinal hernia thing. I didn't know it was cancer at that time. I didn't know that the inguinal hernia tumor was cancer until after they took it out in February of 25. So in September of 24, I don't know if it's cancer or not, right? I just know it's there. Well, let's be for real here, right? Let's be.
You were thinking it was coming back.
Right?
I
mean, let's not be naive about it, right? You have stage 4 cancer. It's all over the place, right? I mean, your liver's filtering your blood, and you got cancer in your liver. It's just pumping these cells all over your body. I mean, the analogy I actually used.
Is it sports related?
No, it's not. It's not, but I'm full of these analogies. And my oncologist specifically told me that he's going to use this in the future.
Good.
So I don't know, maybe I should just write a book about analogies.
It's coming.
So he says, yeah, it's coming. He says, and this is what I told him. To me, tumors are the dust under your couch. And that when you move your couch, you can see the clumps of dust. You can look at it. You can see it, right? You don't need to. But you have the cancer cells floating around your body. You know what that is? That's a spring day when your heat or your air conditioning comes on, and the sun's shining through your window, and you look and you see the dust floating around the air. And right now, that dust is floating around the air currently where we're sitting. We just can't see it because the light isn't shining through the windows the right way. Those cancer cells is that dust. I have that dust floating around the inside of my body. It's just floating around. Right. And there's nothing I can do about it. Right. I don't have a clean air machine that I can put on my body to get the dust out, which is why they hit your body with chemotherapy. They're trying to kill everything. They're trying to kill everything. They're trying to kill all the dust floating around the air. The tumors are the clumps under the couch. All right. So when I start seeing something in my inguinal hernia sac, when I start seeing a nodule noted in my lung, I'm like, oh,
there's the dust.
The dust is clumped up. Right. Now you're seeing this clump of dust. So I guess the chemotherapy didn't get it all like we thought. Right. That's what's going through my head. So, and I was right, because they ended up doing this surgery, like I said, for my inguinal hernia sac in February 2025. And then we watched this nodule, and it came back cancer. And then we watched this nodule on my lung grow. Right. And it's growing. Little bit, slow though. And again, just like I did with my inguinal hernia surgery, and this is where people, like I said, you got to be an advocate for yourself. You can't sometimes you have to push people, right? And I think the business,
even if they're doctors, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think the business side of me comes out a little bit where, hey, you want to get things done. You want to You want results. You want to, let's get it done. Let's do what we got to do to get this done. Yes, you have to push your doctors, and you have to put some pressure on them. Like, look, I wasn't trying to do it because the U of R did a great job. But I'm sure by me just mentioning on February 18th to my oncologist that, hey, by the way, tomorrow I have a Zoom meeting with Sloan Memorial, he kind of was like,
Someone else is taking a peek at my case.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, which I haven't told him he did an excellent job yet. I'm seeing him on April 9th, but when I see him on April 9th, I'm going to go, hey, and I have a great rapport with him. He's a really nice guy.
Mhm.
And I'm going to say, hey, you know what Sloan said about your work? And he's
Just
gonna,
pause for
yeah,
a
I was
second.
just gonna pause for a second. He's gonna be like, "What?" I'd be like, "You're doing a great job." I'm gonna give him a fist bump. So but anyways, they took that out, and we're watching this one on the lung go, and it's November of last year, right? So now we're talking 6 months ago. I'm in my oncologist office. The tumor in my lung now that they're noting is like, I think it was 6 millimeters, which again, now that's a quarter of an inch. So we're not talking about anything massive here. You know what I mean? It's like the width of your pen.
Mm-hmm.
So he says to me, he goes, well, we're going to keep an eye on it. It's slow growing. It's not growing fast because 3 months prior to that, it was 6 millimeters. So we're looking at I'm meeting with him in November. We're reviewing a late October scan. In July, it was 6 millimeters. And now here it is at the end of October, it's still 6 millimeters. So 3 months has passed and it's still the same size. So I will tell you, I mean, that's exactly what he said a few months ago. He goes, the bad news is you have cancer. The good news is it's very slow growing.
Right.
It's very slow growing, right? So that's a good thing. Maybe the chemo did do something.
Yeah.
But so we're talking and he goes, well, we'll do scans in January. And if it gets a little bigger, then we can reach out to a thoracic surgeon and we can have the thoracic surgeon and see if it's big enough to biopsy it. I looked at him. I said, well, what are you going to wait until January to reach out to the thoracic surgeon for? Why don't you reach out to him now?
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, well, I go, well, do it. Reach out to him now. Like, I don't want to wait until January. At that time, we were looking at one nodule. One. So you got one nodule that they're noting that's 6 millimeters in your lung. You have one. Let's test it and see what it is before I have 10. I don't want to show up in January and have 10, right? Let's address it, right? So he goes, okay. So he sends me to the thoracic surgeon. They go in, they do a biopsy on it. They test it. Same cancer that you have that's in your lung, that's in your colon. So then now they're going to schedule a wedge resection or a lobectomy to remove it. They didn't really know exactly what they were going to do until they went in there and did it. They had me scheduled for a lobectomy, which is they're going to take the whole lobe versus a wedge resection. A wedge resection is the way the doctor explained it is your lungs kind of like an orange. You can pull out, slice out. So that's what they did is they ended up taking just a slice out instead of a whole big lobe. Kept as much as you can. In your lungs, you actually have more lung than you need. So like now I have no idea that it was even done. You don't feel it at all. And he said, even if you're a marathon runner 3 months after it's done,
When was that surgery done?
Just had it done in February or January. I'm sorry, January 21st, 7 weeks ago. So this one was robotically. They went in. I have 5 small, like I call them small, but they're like an inch wide. I have 5 inch wide incisions where they went in robotically and then they took out that wedge. I still have, I don't know if it's really pain. It's more discomfort. They got me right here in my rib and they got a nerve and then it shoots around to my front right here. So I could feel it sitting here. You know what I mean? Where you got a little bit of nerve. My stomach feels a little bit numb. You know what I mean? But that's because they hit a nerve and they said it'll get better. That'll get better in time. You know what I mean? Sometimes it can stay permanent. But they went in and did that. But now since they scanned that, they found 2 smaller ones in my lower lungs that we're keeping an eye on. So yeah, so we're going to keep an eye on those. I might need another surgery in the future. I might need to do some radiation or some more chemotherapy or something like that. They're really holding on to chemotherapy as like the last ditch effort. They don't want to do it because I've already had 42 rounds, and they're like, we're gonna wait until it spreads somewhere else. Like if you have it somewhere else, we're gonna wait and hold that as the last resort. And
I'm going to stop just
yeah,
because I want you to explain to me 42 rounds of chemo. How did your body tolerate it? Did you get it through a port?
oh yeah,
Was it medication?
it was a port. It was a
Okay.
port. I still have the port in my chest.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a port. Yeah, I mean, I tolerated it okay. I still have some numbness, some tingling in my feet from one of the ones that they gave me
Mhm.
called oxyplat, and I have some neuropathy in my fingers and stuff like that. But yeah, it was through the port. I mean, it makes you tired. Like I mentioned the last time I was on the air with you, like they gave it to me every other week. So they're like, you think you're getting back to normal, but you're really not. you know,
Right.
like they give it to you every other week, and it beats you up. You feel real tired. But I worked through the whole thing. Like I said, I thought there was an end to this. Like I
Mhm.
thought that the transplant was it, and then I was gonna like move on with life. You know what I mean? And that's obviously not the case. I have other things popping up. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, you feel bad. I ended up working from home. I had a chemo ball that they would attach to me on Wednesdays when I was in there. And then I would come home. I'd carry it around for a couple of days. They'd send a nurse to my house on Friday, disconnect me from my port. And
Would
then
that automatic release or would you have to?
automatic
Okay.
release. Yeah, it was an automatic release. It released over 48 hours. You know what I mean? But and I mentioned the last time too that there was a gentleman that I spoke to that had cancer. His name's Don, and one of the best piece of advice that he ever gave me was like, go get treatment on Wednesday, because they connect the port to connect you on Wednesday. They connect the ball, they disconnect the ball on Friday. It gives you Saturday and Sunday to like recoup,
Right.
and then you go back to work on Monday,
Right.
and then you work that full week. You work Monday, Tuesday of the following week. You go in on Wednesday to have your treatment, and you just keep repeating that. So that's what I did, minus the breaks of surgery. That's what I did for 2 years, basically, almost. You know what I mean?
Did your work regimen change? Are you still with Deepest Quality Construction or what you been up to there?
Yeah. So it did. And going back to, I'll just tell you. So, like I mentioned, in September of 2024, when that nodule came up in my lung on my CT scan, and I sat back in my chair in my office, and it
And
was
this
just
is
like
the
this.
one where it's 8:30 at night.
Oh yeah,
It's a black
8:30 at
parking
night,
lot.
black parking lot. I just sat back in my chair, and
Did you cry?
no, I looked around and I said, "Really?"
D-
Like I go out loud. I said it out loud. I said, "Really? Is this what you beat cancer for?" Now I'll stop right there because, you know, again, here's the football analogy coming, right? Or not even football. We'll switch it up this time. We'll talk about baseball.
Uh,
So when you watch the World Series, right, and you see them in the locker room and they're jumping up and down and the champagne is flying all over the place,
right.
you get this massive feeling of adrenaline. You accomplished something that very few people accomplished. There's something to be said for that. Okay. That's why coaches do what they do.
Hmm.
That's why they neglect their families and sit there and get beat up after they neglect their families at press conferences being called incompetent,
Hmm.
right? I mean, that's why those people do what they do. Now, I didn't own any Deepest Quality Construction. I was no owner at all. Okay. I was the vice president, the president, who's a childhood friend of mine, best, he signed my marriage certificate. We're still really good friends, right? He was the president. I was the vice president. He was the owner. I was the coach. It's the way it was. Now, I might have been the head coach where I could say, these are the plays we're going to run. These are the players we're going to get. This is what we're going to do with our facility, which is like our locker room to attract good people. We're going to build a new corporate headquarters. We're going to design it like this. We should get a gym to help attract people. We should do this. We should do that. Right. And all of my input from the coach standpoint on to the owner was we discussed those things, and it was like, okay, let's get this culture going. Let's do this to attract the best players and right, all those things. So I was just a coach. which is fine with me, right? And I sat there and I was like, you know what? I need to stop being the coach because my family's not in the locker room with me.
Mhm.
They just know you're not home.
Mhm.
They don't get that same feeling,
Mhm.
you know?
Right.
And I've been managing people for a long time. You know, I got my first job in the printing industry when I was 16 years old. Thank for Ron Heinmarch, who was a Hilton teacher for many, many years, had a great program at Hilton, right? Helped me get my job in printing when I was 16. When I found out I was going to be a dad, right? I took it serious and said, all right, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to be a provider, right? And so, you know, when I was 19, I was a second shift supervisor. At 22, a production manager. At 26, the plant manager. I've been the coach
Mhm.
for decades, right? That's really been my career, right? You can call it whatever level you want. At first, hey, again, analogy, second shift supervisor, you're coaching the cornerbacks or something, right? You become the plant manager. Now you're
Coaching.
you're coaching stuff, right? You're going up the levels, right? Eventually, you're the vice president. You're the head coach, right? Um, Look at when we won that project I was talking about out there at MCC. We shut the building down. We went to the bar.
Right.
We did. We were like, because it was an amazing bid. We did a really good job, and it was the largest project. It was the largest project, commercial construction project that Monroe County was putting out and issued in 3 decades.
Wow.
So how's that, right? That you're this company that started in
There's your champagne spraying in the locker room, right?
That's what I'm saying. So this general contracting company was formed in 2013. And here you are, right? 12 years after or I'm sorry, 11 years after starting the company, winning the largest commercial construction project that Monroe County has put out in 30 years. After you've been around for 11 years. You know, and that's like, okay, that starts saying all the late nights, all the weekends, all the hours of working in my home office, all the sacrifices and all the things that you're doing, we're throwing the champagne.
Mm-hmm.
We did it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get an amazing feeling of accomplishment. But again, your family only knows you're not home. They're not in there with you, right? So I decided to choose that I'm going to be home with my family and eat dinner instead of getting that feeling of accomplishment from being a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I had 30 years of that feeling, right? I mean, in the printing industry, right? In 1999, we purchased a printing press that had more technology on it than any printing press that was in the city of Rochester. We purchased what's called a computer to plate device, which now every printer has them. Even the little guys have them, right? We purchased the second one in Rochester ever. You know, I commented on something on LinkedIn last night. I was a beta tester for Kodak products back in the 90s. You know what I mean? Helping them develop a direct to plate printing plates and these different. I was on top of that, like getting that feeling of like, hey, we're doing something cutting edge. We purchased. I recommended actually to the company I was with, and we purchased the first digital HP Indigo digital press in Rochester back in 2005, 21 years ago. So I was on top of this, and you're getting this feeling of like, accomplishing something and being on the cutting edge of something and doing something for decades. I've done it. Now, the most important thing to me is to be home.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Be home.
Do you think your cancer, liver transplant led to that being?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean,
you can have all the professional accolades.
Yeah.
Nothing changes family.
Again, so now you get to see the gift I got you. So I brought Mike
gifts.
I brought Mike a gift here. And I think this is a good time. Number one, I'm going to save this over here, but here's a gift for you. You can open it up on there, and then we'll talk about that for a second. All right.
By the way, this is the first time I've received a gift on air.
That's because he says nice things about me.
For those of you that can't see, it says The Power of Now, A Guide to Spiritual Enlightenment by Eckhart Tolle.
Yep.
I hope you
So
autographed it,
I did write a little something in there for you.
and that'll keep between me and you.
Yeah. So, the last time, and we've spoke about this, we talked about it, about being in the present moment of now and not worrying about things that have already happened because yesterday's gone. Tomorrow wasn't born yet, right? So that's all we have are the moments that we have right here and now in front of us, right? Which right now we're having a nice, good conversation. We're having a Sunday morning, drinking some coffee and having some good conversation. We're just letting everyone in on our conversation, right? And the reason why I gave that to you now is because there's only one paragraph in that entire book that I took a highlighter to. All right. And I'm going to let you read it and get to that on your own. But in short, it talks about in your mind dying before you die, thinking you're going to die and dying before you die, but actually don't die. And at the end of the day, we come in the world with nothing and we leave with nothing. Right. And, you really start changing the way you think when you're like, okay, that's it. Now what happened to me is, the little hourglasses with the sand in it.
I watch Days of Our Lives.
I have less sand at the top. You start realizing there's not as much sand left to go through the funnel as you thought. And I say this all the time. Now I'm positive. I'm about as positive as you can be with this situation, right? But let's be realistic with what's taking place here. You know what I mean? Most likely, unless I get one of those clinical trials like that vaccine or something along those lines, I probably won't make it to 60. Like, I'm not going to be that 75, 80-year-old man with a great tan down in Florida. Like, that's just not going to be me, right? Hopefully something comes along lines and happens, but I'm not banking on that. And I think going back to the career, that people bank on that. They work their tail off and they sacrifice their family and they do all these things for materialistic possessions, and they do these things. And then something happens, and then what? You know what I mean? And me, I've always been one where I've lived very humble life. I really have. Like I said, I've been in the same house in the village now for years. You know what I mean? And I've spent my money more on vacations and stuff than anything because I think those are memories. And I think that, like, when something happens to me, my son will always remember that time in 2005 when he was 13 years old and we were in a convertible driving down Rodeo Drive. Because we went to the Dallas Cowboys training camp for 10 days. We went out there to Oxnard, California, and went to the Cowboys training camp for 10 days, which is right outside LA. So, if I'm in LA, I'm getting a convertible. And we drove down Pacific Coast Highway 1 through Malibu and made our way to Oxnard, California that way one time. But, I think he'll always remember that moment. You know what I mean? And there's all these different moments of time that, like, you can't, like, when you're gone, that's all people have of you. And when my father passed away, the pastor actually said something that was like, yeah, he's right. I mean, that's probably why I do what I do. That just because you leave this earth physically, you really don't leave the earth until the last person who knew you's gone.
Which is decades after you're physically gone.
So, even though, I mean, that's it. So I have no problem spending my money on a vacation. I really don't. And I would rather do that than drive a Mercedes. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean anything to me. I always tell, like, my son, he just said he wanted to get a watch. And I said, don't spend too much money on it because you'll never win the race. And he goes, what? And I go, look at, you get a watch and you spend $25,000 on it, and then someone looks over at it and says, they're wearing a $50,000 watch, right? And they go, nice watch, it's cute. And then Tom Brady walks around with his $500,000 watch, and he looks at that $50,000 watch and says, yeah, hey, that's cute. And then Floyd Mayweather walks over with his $2.5 million watch and looks at Tom Brady's $500,000 watch and says, yeah, that's cute. So listen, you're never going to win the race. So let's not join the race, right? There's people in Saudi Arabia that think Elon Musk is broke.
Right.
You're not going to win the race. Don't even get involved in it. Right? Just drive your Mitsubishi and your phone, right, has the time on it.
You said, you're not naive and,
Yeah.
probably maybe not make it till 60.
Mhm.
What's on your bucket list? I mean, clearly you just mentioned vacations,
Memories.
memories.
Memories, and that's why I resigned from my job, so, um and it's not
What are you
just
doing
memories. So
now?
this is what. So I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll get into that. So what happened is, right, I sat there in September of 2024, like I said, in my office, and I was like, "What am I like? What are you doing?" Right. And then I went home to another plate wrapped in tinfoil. Right. My daughter on the verge, if she wasn't, I don't really remember if she was in bed already or on the verge of getting in bed, but that happened often. I had never ate dinner with my family ever. Right. Leaving between 7, 8, 9 o'clock was normal, right? And then I have a home office. It was duplicate to the office at the shop, so I just go home, work some more, right? But I'm like, all right. I came home. I told my wife, I'm like, this has got to stop, right? And then and of course we talked about this scan. There's something on. They see something on my lung now. Like this has got to stop. Now you start going, okay, I'm in a little bit of a pickle. So I got to do what I got to do to be home and be present for
How
my.
did your wife take the news on that new
Oh,
scan?
I mean, she's still a wreck. She's nervous. She's afraid that she's going to lose me. And it's justifiable. Like, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, it's bad. I mean, I'll pause from the work thing for a second, but it's
Yeah, I'm sorry to
no, it's
kind of
okay. Yeah,
interject.
yeah. No, but it's bad. Like, I feel so bad for our daughter now. We've always kept it normal. She's 13, right? So we don't, hey, even like my surgery, I got to go in for a procedure. Like, we're not talking about I'm having part of my lung taken out,
Right.
right? We're just going in for a procedure. My son now went through this big thing to try to save his dad, and now all of a sudden this is right happening. And, I'm doing everything I can to be around as long as I can and to make sure the sacrifice that he went through was also for something,
Mhm.
right? Which even if I passed away today, it was for something,
Right. Oh,
right? Because
yes.
he gave me 2 years and plus
Right.
that I wouldn't have had. You know what I mean? So he, even if it happened today, it was for something, and I'll always owe him for the extra time. I mean, I owe him for that,
Mhm.
right? Um, but yeah, I mean, my wife though, I feel so bad because it's like sometimes it's almost like when my girlfriend was in her coma for 20 years, her father stood next to her in hopes that she would regain consciousness, and she never, regain some kind of life where she could talk and function and have a conversation. She never did. So, like, what's worse? Like, should she have just passed away the day of the accident? Would everyone else's life been better with her
Mhm.
just being gone? And I think about that. That's probably one of the biggest things that weighs on me. Like, am I giving false hope to these people? Like, would it just be better if I was gone? Right? It just immediately, rather than just being around and putting everybody through this misery of them not knowing if I'm going to be here the next year or not.
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean? That's one thing that's tough, right? Um, I feel bad
Mhm.
for them needing to think like that. You know what I mean? And it's almost like torture. Like you're spending time with someone, so that's all you can do is make those memories as enjoyable as possible, make life as normal as possible. I don't discuss it. I try to live my life just like normal. Go to the doctor visits, handle my stuff, and that's it. Like, if you're around me, you don't know I have cancer,
No.
and I just act normal. I go to work normal. People that don't know that I have it, they're when they find out, they're like completely shocked. They're like, "Oh my god," because I'm not one of those ones that's walking around with like a blue ribbon on shirt, pushing colon cancer in your face. I mean, look at all. Like I said, I was a teenage parent, right? And my girlfriend had a traumatic brain injury, and my brother died of the flu. I didn't run around with like traumatic brain injury T-shirts on, or flu T-shirts on, or childhood, you know, teenage parent T-shirts on. I'm not going to push cancer in your face either. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? Am I going to talk about it like we are to help? Maybe someone going through it now watches this and they're like, oh, wow, man, this dude's been through some stuff and look how positive he is. And what I'm going through, like, it's nothing to him. Maybe I should change my thought process a little bit, be a little bit more positive. Yeah, I mean, that's what this is all about. But again, going back to work, when I'm sitting there and I said, well, I came home, talked to my wife about it and said, and again, it's good for me to be there and support her. I mean, she's going through a lot too. And instead of me being at my desk, right, how about I'm home to just even wash the dishes, right, to support her? I mean, she's going through enough mentally too. To work so much to the point where she's almost like a single parent is not good either. Because she's got a sick husband who's at an office and she's home, like basically putting and eating dinner with just my daughter, almost like a single parent. And then I show up at 8:30 at night, hang out with them for a little while. My daughter goes to bed, and like what? I mean, that's not. I didn't feel like that was really being a partner. Like, I mean, yeah, you're a partner from a financial standpoint and providing. I mean, look at we had a camper, fifth wheel, the truck, the camping on the weekends, all those things to go out and spend memories together. And yeah, you're spending the weekends having a blast, right? The Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're having a blast when you're out camping and all those things. And you can't do those things without money. And sometimes you have to sacrifice to get the money to be able to do those things. Now, again, I'm not into materialistic things, but I was doing that for the weekend memories. We went out camping a lot. We spent a lot of memories. That's something that we'll cherish forever, the golf cart rides. You know what I mean? And sometimes again, that flight to California and that convertible rental car wasn't free either. Right. And if you want to work at McDonald's and make minimum wage, you're not going to be able to have those kind of memories. So, sometimes you have to sacrifice during the week to be able to have a really good time on the weekends to create those memories. And, I wanted to be present for my wife, right? I wanted to come home, eat dinner, wash dishes, do those type of things. So we discussed it, and it's a lot when you're stepping away from a position like that and doing something like that. And on the other flip side of it, well, I'll just talk about, I'll just, because it's pretty deep, you know what I mean? So we talked about it and I told my wife, I said, listen, I'm not going to resign now. Right. My buddy again, who owns the place, was getting ready to go to Italy. He was spending the whole month of October in Italy. This was in September 24, October. He's going to Italy for the whole month. He's been busting his back for a long, long, long time. And we're great friends. And it was like the first time forever he felt comfortable enough to go away, and the fact that he was going to be gone for an entire month was just like, let him, he's got to go. Right. I don't want to, I'm not going to ruin his vacation. And then he came back and he was on cloud nine because, he just was gone for a month. Right. And he's showing pictures of the trip and right. And I'm not ruining that either. So that happened. And then Thanksgiving's coming. I'm like, yeah, I'm not. And then Christmas. And I'm like, I told my wife, let's get through the holiday season. I'll ponder, think about it. Let's think about this for, it's a big deal. Right. I was there, over 8 years, or almost 8 years when this happened. And January came of 2025 last year. And I told my wife, I said, well, there's no more excuses of holidays. Right? I'm going in tomorrow and I'm giving my notice. And I went in and I told them in January 2025, look, just start phasing me out. Like, let's put a date on it though of August 1st. Like August 1st, I just won't be. That's it. Let's just put a date on it for August 1st. It'll give you ample time to make a good decision, to get people in here to take over the tasks that I'm doing. I can train the people on the tasks that I'm doing, train them, stay and train them, and help make this transition a very smooth transition. I like the company. I like him. I put blood, sweat, and tears into it, right? You want to make sure that it's successful after you depart. So that's what we discussed and that's what we did. And of course, he, wanted me to stay in some kind of capacity. But again, going back to the coaching analogy, how do you tell Bill Belichick he's going to go back to coaching defensive linebackers?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, he can stay and do it, and it'll remove some pressure from him, right? But he has the knowledge when other things pop up, and you're just going to keep tapping into that knowledge.
Right.
So there's no reason to like do that. And I knew that. And sometimes like Bill Belichick can go be the coach, the linebacker somewhere, but he's just got to go somewhere else and do it.
Right.
He couldn't do it at New England.
Right.
Right. I mean, look at what he's doing now, right? He's
Right.
coaching college,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can step down to something that has less pressure, right? But you got to go away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that was kind of the scenario of what was going to happen. And this is why I paused the last time. The other thing that makes you think about is that I really care about that place.
Right.
And that I'm too much of a risk to be the head coach. I'm way too much of a risk to be the head coach.
Why is that?
I got cancer.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Like, how do you, like, if the coach, look at in order to be the head coach, it takes what it takes. You don't get to choose your hours. You don't get to choose your weekends. You don't get to choose how many hours you watch film. It just takes what it takes to win.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get to choose any of that stuff. So either you do what it takes to win or you don't. It's that simple, right? And if I don't have it in me to put in the long days and the sacrifice and the time to do that, then I need to go away. Because it's not fair to the rest of the people that work there that are part of that. If the head coach is half in,
mm-hmm.
right? That's not fair, right? And if I'm sick, I thought I was going to get through this, like I said, and when my transplant happened, that we were just going to, okay, it's over. I'm going to live until I'm 75 years old. I'm going to be that tan guy in Florida. We're going to keep building this business. I'm going to be able to keep working hard like this until I'm 60. I'm going to be able to retire at 60 and then go spend every day with my family and vacations and do whatever I want which is what most people think, right? Most people are like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to work and then I'm going to retire and then I'll spend time with my family until that day you start realizing you got less sand in the hourglass. And now, oh, geez, I might not make it to that day. So what do I got to do? Well, I got to spend the time now, right? Because I'm not going to have that like I thought I was going to have that, right? So, like I said, I resigned and I told them at that time, right? And again, this nodule in my lung, they just like noted it, like they see a nodule in my lung. And when he was sitting in the chair in front of my desk, I looked at it, I said, look, I'm doing you a favor. Like, you don't realize it yet, but I'm because you look at it. I mean, and really, like, I'm not trying to compare myself to being the greatest, but the only way I can really get my point across to the listeners here is to use analogies and to speak of people that are popular that they would know.
Right.
And that Bill Belichick's a great coach. Guy won multiple Super Bowls, right? Well, I won 6 Rochester Top 100 plaques in 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And out of those top 100, we were ranked number 4, number 7, number 9, number 12 out of the top 100. It's not easy to get those things. You're talking about the top 100 fastest growing companies in the Finger Lakes region, which goes all the way down to the Pennsylvania border. And if you ever picked up the Rochester Chamber of Commerce or went on their website, you can Google it, Rochester Top 100 right now, and look at the list of names of businesses in this area that you know about, Wegmans and all the rest of them that are in that list that are growing. And to be number 4 in that list is something, right? Wish we were number 1,
Mm-hmm.
but hey, it is what it is, right? But yeah, I mean, those plaques in the lobby come with cost. Just like winning those Lombardi trophies come with cost, right? And you can't have family time and Lombardi trophies and all that kind of stuff. It's tough. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I told them, hey, I'm doing you a favor, right? Because now the company can move on to someone who's going to put in that time and going to put that in and who's not going to have to go through surgeries and be gone for 3 weeks or chemo again or radiation or whatever they plan on doing to me. I don't know. I just know I've already been in the hospital a couple times since I resigned, and I wouldn't have been at work. I mean, in January alone, I spent what it was like 5 or 6 days. I was in twice,
Mhm.
2 different stints. I was in for like 3 days, and then I left, and I was in for a couple more days. Plus all the procedures and CT scans and blood tests and this and that. It's a distraction to the business. I mean, you got to separate that stuff,
Mhm.
right? You got to separate that stuff. So um, I told him, I'm doing you a favor. You just don't realize it yet, you know? And I'm getting off the train. I told him graciously, instead of being pushed off the train, because let's just talk about it. What if I didn't do that? Now, what I've gone through in the last year, you can live through that. The guy missed a few days here, he missed a few days there, whatever, right? But what if they come now and I don't know this? I got a CT scan on April 2nd. On April 9th, I got to go meet with my oncologist. What if the April 2nd scan shows it in my bladder or my pancreas? And now they're like, you know what? It's bad. Now it's going all over the place and you have 6 months or a year to live. Do you think if they give me a 12-month span to live, that I'm going to turn around and give him 8 months notice to resign?
Mhm.
No, I'm not. I'm going to go home and be with my family. Now I'm being pushed off the train,
Right.
right? Now I'm going home. Now they're over there having all kinds of problems trying to figure out what to do. It's not like, you know, training and documented. And, I was even in there last week. I sat down with the gentleman who took over the finance. We had a great conversation for half an hour, and you know what I mean? And just hey, how's everything going? How you guys doing? Everything good? You got any, you know what I mean? Just make sure everything's good. And, so I was able to, like I said, get off the train gracefully. And then in November, um, well, I'll just say, so I stayed on full time through August. They actually hired someone in the beginning of August. So I was in the office through the middle of August. I was doing both. It was nice. It was nice and neat. It was cool how we did it. So I was like there, and then I went away, I think for the month of April, let them, I was home working from home, right? The month of April, to let them do their thing with me kind of being
Mhm.
away. Then I went back in the month of May, the office every single day, the whole month of May, addressed the things that popped up in April when I was not there. Plus I'm helping them from home and I'm working from home. Right. And then I went away. And then in August, I went back for a few weeks and trained a property manager and worked with her. And then I went home and I actually stayed on as like a consultant through the end of the year. So I resigned in January and didn't like stop until the end of last year. And when I resigned, the day I resigned, uh, my friend asked me, he goes, well, what are you gonna do? I go, I don't know. I don't know. And he goes, I said, I might go work at Lowe's or something.
Mhm.
You know, I need to do something and I need to have a job, but I need to have a job where you're not the head coach. I need to have a job where I'm like replaceable. Like I almost thought about going back and doing graphics again because I started doing graphics in 1994. Like using Adobe Creative Suite and what they call the pre-press department, um, and being a pre-press operator. And then even in 2000, as late as 2013, I was doing some, they call it mail merging and doing some different stuff with mail software and things like that in the pre-press department. I was kind of like the fill-in if one of our pre-press people was on vacation or there was an emergency or something needed to be done. Even when I was the plant manager, I would jump in that seat and I would handle it. So I'm like, maybe I'll go do graphics somewhere, be a graphics guy. Because again, if I'm sick or if I die or if I have to resign, I'm not going to hurt that business being the greeter at Lowe's. You know what I mean? They'll just get somebody else to be the greeter at Lowe's, right? Or the graphics guy, whatever. I just can't be the coach, right? The
Right.
head coach anymore. So like maybe I'll go and do that. And then I had someone tell me, like, do you have you ever thought about doing consulting? And I'm like, nah, no. And then someone else goes, you should do consulting. And I'm like, yeah, no. And then someone else was like, do you ever think about doing like public speaking or anything like that? You know what I mean? And I'm like, nah, No. And then after like a 5-6 month period of me resigning, everyone know that I'm resigning and still working there. Cause like I said, I was there like really hard through the middle of August. Everyone kept saying this to me, like multiple people. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes God talks to you through others.
100%.
You need to listen.
Yep.
So maybe this is one of those things. And I started thinking about it and I'm like, you know what? It probably wouldn't be a bad thing doing some consulting and public speaking, because the public speaking thing, again, will allow me to encourage other people and to share my story and to have some positivity and let people go, well, geez, that guy's going through that. What I really think I'm going through is not that big of a deal. Maybe I should be a little more positive, something like that. Or, you know what? That guy was a teenage parent. He didn't have a college education. He worked his tail off to the point where he was the vice president of a company and doing all the things that he needed to do. I'm a teenage parent. I'm not going to be able to go to those things either. Maybe I won't work at Walmart through for the rest of my life. Maybe I won't be in a warehouse. Maybe I will be the vice president of the company. I can do that. That guy did it. I can do it too. Right. So to share that knowledge, to encourage other people, that's a really good thing too. And the other thing is that like I said, I've been managing people since I was 19 years old. So maybe I should go coach other coaches. Maybe I should share some of those 30 years of experience that I have with other people and other coaches and other leaders in the younger generation. I've always been about that anyways, always. And even when I was the vice president, I've never, ever been one of those people that holds my knowledge close to my vest. I document everything. I teach everybody everything. You know what I mean? Because it's my job too to mentor others in case something happens, because you're not going to be around forever, right? Regardless if you're healthy or not healthy, if you're the helm of a company, right? You're not going to be around at that company forever. So you need to teach the younger people. You need to teach people, right? So I'm all about teaching people. So in July, I formed an LLC and started working on some marketing and things like that. And now I'm working for myself as a consultant, and it's called Colline IQ LLC. And that's it. So now I'll give you one of my business cards.
All right.
Now you get
Thank
one
you.
of the business cards. So now I'm out doing consulting and some public speaking. And right now I'm actually consulting for a company that has around 250 employees. And they're a construction company, and helping them with some staff training and some process improvements and some things like that. I'm going in every day. I did 40 hours last week, but I'm home for dinner. Now I work for myself. I'm home for dinner. So the longest, I think the latest I ever worked so far has been 6 o'clock at night. And that was because my daughter had dance anyways until 6:30. So I worked until 6 and I knew it was dance night. But yeah, I mean, I've been getting out of there a normal time. I'm going in, I'm working 8 hours a day. I'm mentoring people. I'm teaching people. I'm helping their company become more effective at what they do. And, having some closed doors conversations with the leadership team, which my website, if you Google it, it says business coach and business therapist, because we've had some conversations, and that's really how it is you have some conversations behind closed doors, and what happens behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. And they're like, wow, geez, I never really thought of it like that. And after doing some research, and especially being with a general contractor, I realized that, most of these business owners are alone. They have no one to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do some research, and according to the United States Census, 59.2% of businesses in the United States have a single owner.
Really?
Yep. So you're all by yourself. You own a company, right? Now you can you can go to the country club or whatever, and there's colleagues and there's people that you can talk to. You're not going to dive in the weeds with them. You're not going to tell your competition the problems that you're really having.
No.
You're not going to air it out like you would with a therapist behind closed doors, someone who can't repeat anything. I have an agreement. My agreement has a non-disclosure clause in it and things like that. So, what happens behind those doors stays behind those doors. The things that we discuss are the things that we discuss. And that's that. Right. And, even on my website, I mentioned that I'll be discreet. Like one time I went in and spoke to somebody on a Sunday. We did this. I went in, I had coffee. We just didn't have mics and a camera in our face. You know what I mean? But we did this. I sat down with them for an hour, a little bit more than an hour, and we discussed what we needed to do. And really, I'm just like a lawyer or anything else. I bill in 6-minute increments. So I bill in a tenth of an hour. So, you can call me and have a quick question. I can tell you what to do, and you can just go about your business. And it's renting Bill Belichick. Right? It's having someone like that in the back that you can call and you're stuck with something and they're like, hey, go here, do this or try that. And you're like, hey, thanks, coach. And you hang up the phone and go and do what you got to do. You know what I mean? And that goes along with talking about creating memories. One of the things, sorry there. So I had a mentor for 11 years from 1994 until 2005. His name was Nick Amoroso. He passed away a while ago, but he was a big influence in my life, and he was a leader in the printing industry and here in Rochester for decades. And Nick, I owe a lot to Nick, and I always say he was my work dad, right? And I told my wife, I said, if someone's sitting on their couch one day and they're talking to their spouse about Jason Colline the way that I talked to you about Nick, I did something right. And that's all I'm trying to do. That's all I'm trying to do. From a financial standpoint, I'll probably never get to the point that I was being the vice president in Deepest Quality Construction.
What do you miss most about that company?
To be honest with you, I really, because I'm working now, I don't miss much. I miss seeing one of my best friends every day. I mean, I miss that conversation. But other than that, I'm doing the same thing, right? I'm just doing the same thing somewhere else. Right? I'm going in, they have challenges, they have problems. I'm helping them fix things. I'm mentoring people. I'm teaching people. I'm doing the same stuff. I'm just doing it somewhere else. And I'm going to do it somewhere else until that company decides and we decide that they're in a good position. And I might even go back in like a day a week or something like that, or be there and I'm just moving on to the next one. So now it's just like coaching. And that's why I use that analogy all the time. It would be like Bill Belichick leaving and then he goes and he's like a consultant and he's working with this team and he's still teaching players and helping the assistant and doing, and then he leaves and then he goes over to this one and then he leaves and he goes over to this one. And then you might spend a month with this one, but then you leave, you go spend a day with this one. I'm still doing the same thing. I just don't get to see one of my childhood best friends every day. That's all.
And you're a teenage dad, and from what I gather, you've done all this in your life career-wise without a college education.
Yeah.
I think that's a testament to our viewers that
Yeah. I mean, look at college educations are a good thing.
I'm not saying don't go to college.
Oh no, my son went, well, see, I don't have a college education, but I paid for one. I always say that with marketing because my son has a marketing degree and I go, listen, I don't have a marketing degree, but I paid for one. And if I need the answer, give me a minute. Let me call somebody. He'll tell me what to do. But yeah, I mean, it's important depending on what you want to do in life, like what you plan on doing. I will tell you something right now, being in construction, the skilled trades, man, I really wish they brought that shop class back to schools. I really do. And if you saw the numbers, like I just did it the other day, a journeyman carpenter, that's not a foreman. That's just a regular journeyman carpenter will make $120,000 a year.
Holy cow.
Their contribution, the company that they work for's contribution alone to their pension is $21,000 a year. Who's contributing $21,000 a year into your 401k? Right? Nobody.
Right.
Nobody. So you want to talk about having a good pension. And the thing is that what happens is people look at young people and they don't get the full discussion. And I had this discussion with somebody. You know what they said? Their son was working for a non-union contractor, and they're like, well, and she told her son, well, you should join the union. And he goes, well, I don't want to take a pay cut, because he thinks he's going to have to become an apprentice. And that's not true. Like the carpenters union specifically, I'll talk about the carpenters union. You can go on the local 276's website, and right underneath where it says become a member, there's a link where if you have 5 years experience of being a carpenter, you can join them and get journeyman rate day one. There's no apprentice. Like these guys think that they're going to go back because they've never been in the union, that they're going to start at apprentice level 1 and make $15 an hour, do 1,000 hours, go to number 2, do another 1,000 hours. Cause that's usually the thing. You got to do 1,000 hours and get to the next level. Right. But even if you think about it, even if you did that, a normal 40-hour week times 52 weeks a year is 2,080 hours a year. So even if you had to do 1,000 hours at 6 months, then another 6 months, then another 6 months, and another 6 months to get from level 1 to a journeyman is going to take you 2 years anyways. Right. And you start getting your usually, and every union's different, but usually level 1 and level 2, they're not putting anything in your pension. Once you hit level 3 and get past level 2, they're contributing to your pension. Then you become a journeyman. They're putting in big money in your pension. You know what I mean? But what happens is they'll make, like, let's just say you were getting paid $36 an hour or something like that, right? They go, well, I can work non-union and I can get paid 40. I can go build houses and make 40. What am I going to do union to make 36? Yeah, well, is the company that you're working for building houses paying another $35 an hour on your behalf to the union for every hour you work? So they're giving you 36 in your check. And then every hour you work, they're giving another 35 to the union, which is your pension, your annuity, your health and welfare, your training, and all those different things. Right. So is the guy you're building a house for that you're making 40 dumping another? No, he's not. He's paying for your workers' comp. Big deal. Right. He's doing some things like that in the background. He's, of course he has to pay the 7% of FICA. He's got to match your FICA. So he's paying 7% into that. He's doing some, they call it state unemployment tax, federal unemployment tax, SUDA, FUDA is what they call it, right? He's doing some of that, but he's not paying $35 an hour. So he's getting away cheap. He's paying you 40, where the union contractor is paying $70+ an hour. Plus the union contractor still has to pay SUDA, FUDA, workers' comp, FICA, all that stuff. They got to do all that too. Right. So you're better off going, and they need help. That's why this ATC building in MCC, that building I'm telling you they're doing for 30 years, that's why they're doing it. They have more projects here that they need to do than they have people to do them. They have the school renovations. I mean, if you think about it, which is why I left the printing industry after 25 years to get into commercial construction to begin with, to join Deepest Quality Construction, is because I looked at the whole industries as a whole. And commercial construction, they went crazy in the 60s and 50s and 60s. Now it's 75 years ago, right? Building roads, bridges, the infrastructure. This country, well, guess what? It's old. And you got schools now with lead paint and asbestos, and right, and they're gutting them and they're remodeling them and they're doing all this work to them. Well, who's doing it? And everyone told their kids to go to college, and everyone told their kids to go get an education, and you'll never, right, and all these things. And you know what? And even if you were and it's good to be in a ditch. It's good to be a carpenter. And when you leave, it doesn't mean just because you do it that you have to do it forever. You can become a foreman. You can become a superintendent. You can become an estimator. You can go back in the office and do these things, and you will be better at your craft because you were in the field, because you were in the ditch and you did what you needed to do. You'll be better at it because you'll really understand what happens out there. You know what I mean? And people can go to college and make a really, really, really good career without going to college. You don't have to go to college and get it. Doctors, dentists, lawyers, marketing people. Depends on what you want to do, right? You need that college degree. But if you end up finding out that you're going to be a teenage parent, or maybe you can't afford to go to college, or there are other things there for you to do. And Moco's doing an excellent job with it, of course. But nowadays, it seems to me that, like the school themselves are either sending their kids to Womoco, but they don't have everything in the schools like they used to. The wood shop, the printing program, all that stuff. They just, you know what I mean? Because they've put such a focus on that college. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's all about your work ethic and your attitude and being coachable and listening. And, like I said, I owe a lot to that mentor that I had, right? I wouldn't be what I am today if I didn't listen to him and if I wasn't coachable and if I didn't take his criticism. I thrived on that. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing, is that you need to do what you need to do to progress in your career. You don't necessarily need to have an education. It's all the other stuff of being coachable that you have to have.
Well, you said that you're doing consulting, and then how about your public speaking? Have you done any of
Well, yeah, I've been on actually I have another podcast that I'm going to be going on here soon. I've put together some presentations, and I've sent some presentations to some people about doing it. Uh, I'm waiting to hear back from those yet.
Mhm.
I'll be honest with you. I didn't have my foot on the accelerator of getting the business going because I was dealing with my father. And it was kind of like, so like I said, I worked until August. September, I just took a deep breath.
Sure.
I sat in the garage and read books and drank coffee and pet the dog, and just, I needed that, man, after all those years of doing what I was doing. And then I went out to a meeting in Buffalo in the beginning of October for a new micron plant that they're building out in Clay. So they're building this massive billion with a B, construction project out in Clay. It's going to last decades. There's going to be construction people out there working for decades. And there's going to be a lot of contractors that need someone to talk to. They need someone to help them. They need someone, especially when you get involved in something like that, because there's a lot of government entities involved. There's a lot of paperwork. It's why a lot of contractors don't. You ever see that guy driving down the road and he's got all the paperwork on the dashboard of his van? If you're going to do public works projects, you can't be that guy. And if you are that guy, you need to call someone like me to help you, because you won't make it. You won't make it through the project. So I went out there, started getting my business thing really going. And then October 14th, my father went into the hospital. And again, if I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have been at the hospital twice a day with him. I was there every morning. I'd go in, I would talk to the doctors, then I would leave. I'd go home for a little while. Then I'd pick up my mom and I'd bring my mom up there in the evening. You know what I mean? So I was up there all day, every day. He went in October 14th and he passed away in hospice November 23rd. And if I didn't resign from my job, I don't know how. I just wouldn't have been able to spend as much time with him during his last days. And I'm glad that it worked out the way it worked out. Again, I'm not, well, I can't really say again because we haven't talked about it, but I'm not a very super religious person. I'm not going to push it in someone's face, but I'm a believer. Right.
Well, that was going to lead to kind of like how I wanted to conclude is I researched your Facebook page last night, and at the top is a very poignant statement. And you obviously came up with it. God is the seamstress that tailor-filled my pain.
Tailor-fitted.
Like I said, I did.
Yeah.
Forgot to.
I actually stole that, believe it or not. You know who said that? And you're going to really.
Is it in the Bible?
Nope. 50 Cent.
50 Cent.
The rapper 50 Cent said that. Yep. Curtis Jackson, I like to call him because he has a real name, right? He said that. And it fits me. And it's true. God has put me in the position that he's put me in, and he wrote my story. And I don't know the ending of that story. Only he knows the ending of that story, right? I don't know why he's done the things or is currently still doing the things to me in my life. Why? And even though I may be going through the things that I'm going through, maybe by me sharing my knowledge, spreading my knowledge, being a positive person, and doing the things that I'm doing. I had the owner of the company that I'm working for right now, consulting for right now. He said to me, "Sure," he goes, I wish you could stay here. Like, I wish you could be part of this company." You know what I mean? And I'm like, well, sorry, man. I'm not reliable enough to be in the position that you're looking to fill. The specific position. Again, a position that has the word chief in front of it. I can't be the chief. I got to be an Indian. So, right. So, he goes, I don't know how you're so like vibrant and bubbly and like so much energy. And like, he's like, man, I don't know how you do it. And I told him exactly like this. I said, because you want to know what? Right now, I'm having a great conversation with you, and
Mhm.
this is awesome. Like like it can't get any better. Like I'm having a great day.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And whatever
Me too.
happened, yeah, whatever happened yesterday, and whatever is going to happen tomorrow is going to happen tomorrow. And I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. God knows, and He knows why He's putting me in the position that He's putting me in, and why I'm in the position that I am, and why my story is becoming my story. I'm a vessel. Right? And it's just like coming through me, and for what? For other people, for some other
Yep.
kind of purpose. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just going to keep doing my thing, and whatever the reason why is the reason why, and I really don't know why it's happening the way it's happening, but it's happening the way it's happening, and that's whatever. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. I don't know. You know what I mean? There's a reason for it.
Well, I'll give you the last word, but my grandma Nani, who I was very close with, um, she talked about witnessing
Hmm.
and talking to you right now. You are that vessel, and you are that witness of faith and not living for tomorrow, but living for today.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. I mean, it's like I said, there has to be a reason why it's being written the way it's written, and I really think everything is happening for a reason.
Mhm.
And I'm going to continue to just do and look at. I could be around in 10 years, and maybe I'll look back at this thing and be like, man, you know what? I should have stayed at Deepest Quality Construction, or I should have stayed whatever. Or I'll look back at it and be like, you know what? You went on your own, and you still spread knowledge, and you still encouraged other people, and that's really the most important thing to me right now is look at. I want to be home every single day. I want to spend time with my family. I want to pick my daughter up from school if I need to. I am not going to miss a thing when it comes to my family. I'm going to spend as much time with them as possible to enjoy my time with them. And if I have 20 more years with them, fine, I'm still going to just do it. I'm just going to take it one day at a time and do as much as I can, because I don't know if I have 20 years. So I'm just going to live like I don't. And if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But I'm just going to live like I don't. And that's it. I'm not going to worry about the rest of the stuff. I'm not going to worry about money. I'm not going to worry about any of those types of things. I'm still going to be able to go and mentor people and teach people and help people. And like I said, hopefully some of these speaking engagements I get to go out and I spread more light on it. I will tell you that I reached out. So the laborers union has a tracks program where it's people who went through their adults, young adults, and maybe they went through something in their life. Like a lot of them have been in jail, and they don't have the best upbringing in the world. I reached out to them just to go there to be a speaker to them to talk about. Hey, look at, I was a teenage parent, right? I don't have a college education either. Maybe you spent some time in jail. I didn't do that, right? But hey, we're the same, right? You just need to do this, and this. And, I'm not going to charge them to go talk to them or nothing like that. I just want to go talk to them. That's all I want to do, right? Spread more knowledge and spread more positivity and spread the story so that people can look at it and be like, hey, you know what, man? This dude has been through some stuff. He continues to go through some stuff. He's over here, like, you know, having surgeries and then showing up to consult somewhere a month after his surgery, and I don't even mention it to people. Like it was funny when I went over there and started doing consulting with them. They're like, hey, uh you just had part of your lung taken out a month ago? Like, yeah, whatever. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's really it, and again, I want to thank you for having me here. Right. I want to thank you for taking time out of your Sunday morning to talk with me.
My
And,
pleasure.
I appreciate all the kind words you've said and continue to say. And, and really, I just hope that, and this is just another vessel right here, right? And you're doing it too. And hopefully someone watches this and listens to this and they say to themselves, you know what? I need to get off my couch and go do this. You know what? I need to help myself. Um, and just, I need to be that advocate. My doctor said this, you know what? I'm going to push my doctor. I want that surgery. I want that biopsy. I want that, like, okay, I'm going to call another hospital and get a second opinion. Just all the things that I talked about here over our discussion today. Maybe that someone says, you know what, I'm going to do that now. And I will tell you that it is March. It's Colon Cancer Awareness Month. I was diagnosed when I was 46. At that time, you had to be 50 to get your colonoscopy. Now it's 45. I'm sure they see on TV younger people. There was an actor that just passed away, famous actor.
Vander.
Yeah, and he had colon cancer, so it's Colon Cancer Awareness Month. So get your colonoscopies, folks, especially if you haven't had one in a while. And yeah,
It's like 92% curable when it's caught.
it is early. I had no symptoms at all. I just ended up having a stomach ache and went in, and after it didn't go away for a while, and that was it. That's how I caught it. I didn't have any, you know what I mean? So yeah.
Well, stay tuned. You might get another podcast on that.
I don't know. Thanks again for having me, buddy.
I appreciate you coming. I thank you very much for the book.
Enjoy the reading.
I will, and I appreciate all the knowledge and the thoughts that you sent to me. I'm going to do a lot of thinking.
Thanks, buddy.
And a lot of, Jason, thank you for joining me on the Big H podcast. I wish you good luck in the future with the treatment, whatever it entails. Come back anytime. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can follow me on X, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Rumble at the Big H Podcast. Jason, it's an honor, a pleasure to know you.
Thanks,
and
buddy.
Always speak with you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, viewers.
The Big H Podcast, tune in now. Conversations that'll wow. Laugh and learn, stay a while. Let's explore that Hilton style. From the highs to the lows, every story just explodes. Mike's got questions on the go, diving deep from head to toe. Every week the guests align, sharing moments so divine. Stay with us, the pace is fine. Every episode you'll find